welcome to Queer Agenda.
The body of a man was pulled from the canal near Piccadilly on Thursday. This comes after shocking statistics revealed that more than 60 bodies were pulled from Manchester's canal in the past 6 years.
Some have suggested a gay serial killer may be to blame. This item on canal safety comes from LGBTV's reporter Les Gunn.
Now, earlier this year, social media was rife with suggestions that a serial killer targeting gay and bisexual men was on the loose in and around the canal in Manchester. The report from a professor in Birmingham has since been retracted. However, safety in and around the canal is still an issue, as Inspector Phil Spurgeon from Greater Manchester Police explains.
No, I mean, the figure that was put in the national and international press of 61 deaths, that's across the whole of Greater Manchester. If we look at the real specifics of this locality, the Undercroft, you know, we can say in the last 3 years there have been 5 deaths in and around this immediate area. Now, that's a lot, so there have been improvements to signage, to lighting, to CCTV. You know, there are handrails there, but we're looking at what else is it that we can do.
Regrettably, just days after we filmed this interview, the body of another man was recovered from the canal near Dale Street. Police are not treating the death as suspicious. Safety measures on Canal Street in recent years include the addition of a glass and steel barrier, plus the Village Angels are on duty every weekend. We asked the Lesbian and Gay Foundation what advice they would give.
Look out for your mates. That's really important. Look after yourself, look out for your mates. Village Angels are always going to be on Friday and Saturday nights, but when they're not, the most important thing is to know if you notice anything suspicious or you don't feel comfortable, go to somewhere you feel safe and make sure you call the police. If it's an emergency, always 999, if not, 101.
Be aware of what you've taken in terms of alcohol and drugs and know that you are in a more vulnerable state. Perhaps if you're going to go down by the canal, leave your phone, leave your wallet at home, make yourself uninteresting to anyone who might want anything from you like that.
The Chief Constable of Greater Manchester Police, Sir Peter Fahey, also spoke to us last summer.
There are some difficult issues about the design of what's called a gay village, you know, with very narrow towpaths, and in general we are very concerned about public safety in general when people have been drinking with open canals and the rest of it. So we will work with the community in the gay village, with the council, to try and get that right balance between accessibility and at the same time trying to safeguard you know, public safety.
If you're around the canal in Manchester, look after yourself and stay safe.
It's less than 90 days to go until the general election, and all the polls are predicting we are heading for one of the tightest results in years. So it's no surprise that all the main parties are looking to gain votes from the LGBT community. Now let's speak to our political editor Dan McLaughlin, who can tell us where the parties stand. So, Dan, gay-friendly MPs.
Yes, gay-friendly MPs. I'm going to make the statement from basically referring to the poll from Pink News in December, who named the most gay-friendly party leader, and that was the Lib Dem leader, Nick Clegg. He was the most gay-friendly. In second place was Ed Miliband, third place was the Greens' Natalie Bennett, fourth was David Cameron, and fifth was Nicola Sturgeon. It's interesting that Sturgeon is fifth in this list. During the Equal Marriage Bill in 2013, when the MPs voted, all of the SNP MPs, they didn't vote, they abstained. This was when Alex Salmond was leader, but it's even more interesting because Sturgeon has just announced that the Scottish National Party will support the creation of an LGBT rights envoy. Miliband announced his intention to do this in September. Also, this comes a day after it was reported that Barack Obama, the US president, is set to create his own envoy within the State Department.
And all the main parties, they're all trying to muscle and claim credit for that huge reform of same-sex marriage.
Yeah, well, David Cameron called it his proudest achievement of 2014. Now, I'm not sure his party will agree with that. There was 136 Conservatives who opposed the bill. This is compared to the 127 who were in favour. The other members of different parties who opposed it were 22 Labour MPs and 4 Lib Dems.
Can we talk a little bit about UKIP, because the party doesn't seem to be very friendly towards the LGBT community?
No, of course not. In the poll done by Pink News, 94% of the Pink News readers describe Nigel Farage, the UKIP leader, as either moderately or extremely anti-LGBT. With UKIP, you've got a selection to choose with any controversies, especially with homophobia. Deputy Leader Paul Nuttall has claimed that Labour's plans to tackle homophobia in school is politically correct nonsense.
And there's also, I believe, an issue to do with civil liberties and apps. Can you just tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, of course. Well, with anything with politics, if you talk about LGBT politics, anything can cover it. It could be welfare, it could be health, it could be civil liberties. David Cameron wants to consider the impact of new surveillance powers. He wants to stop the use of communication that can't be read by security services. So this could see the apps like WhatsApp, Grindr and Snapchat blocked, and this could... a lot of young LGBT people rely on privacy and discretion, and they can't get this.
And Dan, just quickly sum up, we're going to expect more targeting from all the main parties in the next coming few weeks.
Certainly are. Obviously, like I said, less than 90 days to the general election. They're trying to get as many votes as possible, and the most friendly are probably your Labour, your Lib Dems and your Greens.
OK, Dan, thank you very much indeed.
Manchester City Council have granted LGBT North West over £60,000. The group plan to use it to lease a building. Consultations are taking place in the coming weeks.
There is potential for Manchester's first gay school to be created to give pupils a safe place to learn. The proposed plan has caused some controversy. Jim Scott went to find out what people thought.
The region's first gay school is in its early stages of consultation, and although nothing's set in stone, it's certainly created a mixture of opinion. Statistics show that a school of this kind isn't unwanted. The long-established Harvey Milk High School in New York has operated successfully as a school for their community for a number of years, so plans for it to come to Manchester aren't unlikely. Here's what the public thought about the proposal.
I think maybe schools they might have to kind of embrace like having gay out there, but I don't think it's necessary to have like a separate school that's gay.
I think it's a ridiculous idea, and it'll segregate them completely. I don't see why they should be learning separately compared to everybody else. It's just their sexuality. I don't think it should make a difference whatsoever for their education.
Well, I think the money should be spent elsewhere, because like, why should they have their own school, you know what I mean? Like, why should they segregate themselves?
LGBT North West has received £63,000 in the feasibility fund to take on a lease from Manchester City Council to run the Joyce Leyland Centre. They also say, if young LGBT people say they want a lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, inclusive school, then we must explore this. From this report, it's clear that there is a mixture of opinion. Some believe it's a good idea, but others see issues. The consultation will run for the next few weeks and a decision will be announced.
Author of homophobic legislation in Russia has threatened to close a lesbian club after a photo of the owner and her partner kissing in front of him went viral on social media. The couple were on a plane to Moscow when they seized the opportunity to take the picture in front of the politician as a protest.
Selfridges has taken a groundbreaking step and decided to rid its flagship store of men's and women's clothing. The department will be replaced by 3 floors of gender-neutral clothing. It's to allow people to shop without limits or stereotypes.
Well, that's a very good idea. And a long time ago they did used to have what was called unisex clothing. So, you know, rather than male and female, it's a modern society, it's a modern world.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've believed in it for a while because unisex clothing is really needed, and I think one of the first shops to adopt it, I just think that it's just a fantastic concept, really.
Well, I always wear men's clothes, so I think unisex clothing's a great idea. Why do we have to have a binary definition of who we are? You know, just people. I think it's great. I can't wait to see it.
LGBT coverage in museums might not be something you think about often, but the People's History Museum in Manchester have been looking at the LGBT archives.
With everything from the lesbians and gay support, the miners' movement to the Communist Party being covered, we take a look at the importance of preserving our history.
Each month, the People's History Museum does a snapshot event. This month, the focus is on the history of the LGBT community.
Well, archives are sort of the official story that's kept, and there's so many different interesting stories of LGBT history throughout British history, really, and particularly in Manchester, because we're still quite radical. And archives safeguard that story. We've got the archive of the Lesbian and Gay Support the Miners, which was that, the Pride film that just came out. That's about that, which is really good. We've got lots of things from the Communist Party archive. They had a lot of involvement with LGBT and particularly homosexual rights and movements and involvement. We've got lots of different things of that, like committees and correspondence. We've got the archive of Peter Tatchell's Outrage magazine, and there's photographs and pamphlets and different things spotted all over the place.
I actually did like the Lesbian and Gay Support the Miners, because I do remember the miners' strike very well. And it kind of, I think if it's, a lot of the stuff here, depending on your age, is stuff that you remember from your own life. And that had an effect on you, going on marches, or even if you just read about it or heard about it, and particularly if you lived in a mining area. It's amazing what seeing the first-hand documents means to you, rather than filtered through somebody's interpretation. And I really particularly like that, because it's still very vivid in my own memory. People's history, that's what it's about. You know, people's experiences. It's not just kings, queens, and prime ministers. It's what happened to individuals, really.
Due to the increased use of social networking, archivists are now trying to come up with new ways to document events that are happening over the internet rather than in reality.
But something that I'd quite like to do was to use that opportunity with, like, social media and people doing it, it's getting so much more easily involved, is to do that. Use that community to do it themselves. So have sort of archive expertise and heritage expertise to help the communities demonstrate and sort of exhibit themselves.
Archives are vital to preserve our history, and the People's History Museum play an important role in that. But with the continuous development of technology, will archiving like this be possible in the future?
To discuss the importance of LGBT involvement in museums, I met Dr. Nina Kane, Artistic Director of Cast Off Drama and Public's art developer. An innovator in public performance and life modelling, Nina is developing creative ways to incorporate the LGBT community. So we can see that archiving and exhibitions are starting to happen in the UK now. What can we expect from the future?
Okay, well, I think now's a really, really exciting time for LGBT people within British galleries and museums, and we're really beginning to be at in the middle of a really long process that I'd say probably started around 2000, when the Culture Secretary Chris Smith introduced the principle of free access to museums and galleries in the UK. Because what we've seen happen over the last 14 years or so is a growth in community-based and education activities taking place in galleries that really challenge the idea that galleries are there just to edify the public, and also there just to sort of create a haven for very, very expensive works of art. So my company Cast Off Drama has worked since 2002 at Leeds Art Gallery, using really the spaces and the collections of the galleries as a working space for drama and for art historical investigations of gender and the body. And about 10 years ago, there was a very, very kind of free space opening up with a sort of continuum from feminism and performance art, where people could work with nudity in the body in galleries, begin to question ideas of the female body and how it was represented, and where members of the public could really come in and begin to see through their engagement with workshops, but also through their engagement with activities happening within the gallery space, a kind of sense of ownership of galleries.
Great. So what can the LGBT community do now, or how can the LGBT community get involved in sort of exhibitions and things right now?
Right, well, there's some really exciting things happening at Leeds at the moment. I'm co-curating with Leeds Art Gallery a project called Queer Eye, and it's a whole series of workshop programmes, performances, film-based events and discursive events for people to build towards the 2017 50th anniversary of the legalisation of homosexuality in the UK. And what we're finding is that people are feeling able to come into the gallery, participate in workshops discussing queer theory, discussing works in the gallery's collection. And what we're doing at Leeds is through Queer Eye is an active process of queering the collection. We're actively building a queer canon of works from the gallery's permanent collections that we say are definitively queer, and we're engaging members of the public through mixed art space and drama workshops to select works and say why do we think they're queer? Why do we think they're queer?
That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and hopefully we'll see some of those exhibitions soon.
Thank you. Thanks.
Filmmaker Aleem Khan, famous for his social political stories, has been nominated for a BAFTA for his new film, Three Brothers. Aleem often looks at complex relationships and family relationships. We caught up with him to discuss LGBT people in film.
I don't think that by being gay or lesbian makes it more difficult for you to work in the industry. I think it could be more difficult for you if you want to make a film about those themes or about that world, because I think there is a perceived fear in that maybe stories with those themes won't sell. But then saying that, you know, it's really encouraging at the moment. There are some amazing films coming through, and you've got big films like Milk, like Brokeback Mountain, and The Imitation Game, which have these themes and these kind of queer, kind of LGBT storylines, doing incredibly well. There is obviously an appetite for that kind of film, but I just think people like good stories. That's what it's about. I think it is. It's about good stories, and I think people respond to that, and those things rise to the top.
And on a lighter and brighter note, because she is very much lighter and brighter than everyone in the studio today,
our fellow presenter in pink, Jana.
Thank you, you too. And Scott, I'm loving your tie. Welcome and good afternoon. It's time to recruit. Huge thanks for joining us, especially you. On today's Time to Recruit, we're going to be having a rather gay old time. It's 2015, it's the future, and the future is gay. On today's Time to Recruit, we're going to be discussing how we need you. There will be no brainwashing on this show, just facts, and more hot, hard facts. Here at Time to Recruit, we want to create a structured space for young LGBTQ folk like you to join ranks, gain strength from each other and control the weather. But really, what would you rather? This or this? Now, with your help, we can begin to engage in actions that will secure certain privileges and commit certain undertakings to be undertaken by those undertaking them. Did you know every time they get the letters wrong from LGBTQ, a pug, a small little adorable pug, loses its life just like that? As an organisation, we need to commit to more weddings. It has been alleged by some that due to gay marriage, 5,000 years of Western civilization is coming to an end, which is rather fabulous to have so much power, don't you think? A little bit like the weather thing, but more, and as you know, too much is never enough. Help us make the world become one big musical, and to ensure all women own at least one cat. We need you to continue our work delivering glitter bombs, since Send Them Glitter has been uncovered as part of the LGBTQ militia to spread glitter lung to those non-believers, and has been shut down by a higher authority. I know what you are thinking. What do you get if you join us? What's in it for you? Well, in your LGBTQ militia pack, you will receive not only a signed photo of Kylie with Ellen and Prince together in a hot tub, but also a lifetime supply of fake tan, plush, a checked shirt and braces covering all the bases. We need nouns in our LGBTQ, so join us and add some DISCO to some LGBTQ. Wow, fabulous to be here.
I love it.
I love it. Love it.
That's all for today. Thanks for joining us.
Don't forget, you can check out Queer Media on Twitter. We're at Queer Media UK, or go to the Facebook page, queermedia.org.uk as well.
Goodbye. Bye.